इस कार्यक्रम के प्रायोजक नेशनल पेंशन सिस्टम एनपीएस। अपना बेहतर कल सुनिश्चित करने के लिए एनपीएस जरूरी है। वित्तीय सुरक्षा के साथ साथ एनपीएस गर्व का अनुभव भी देता है। 18 से 70 वर्ष की आयु के बीच का कोई भी भारतीय नागरिक और कॉर्पोरेट कर्मचारी एनपीएस से जुड़ सकता है। किसी भी पीओपी जैसे बैंकों, एनबीएफसी के जरिए या npstrust.org.in के ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म के जरिए आप अपना एनपीएस खाता खोल सकते हैं। सुरक्षित भविष्य के लिए एनपीएस जरूरी है।
This is Akashvani. Good evening and welcome to Market Mantra, our program in which we give you a complete update on the economic news of the day. I am Gaurang Dhawan Lal and with me is my co-anchor Vibhuti Mishra.
धन्यवाद गौरा। नमस्कार श्रोताओं, मार्केट मंत्र में आपका स्वागत है, जहां हम देश और विदेश की आर्थिक, व्यापारिक और शेयर बाजार की ताज़ा खबरें आप तक लाएंगे और उन पर चर्चा भी करेंगे। चर्चा के लिए आज हमारे स्टूडियो में आमंत्रित हैं वरिष्ठ आर्थिक पत्रकार के बद्रीनाथ। बद्रीनाथ जी नमस्कार, मार्केट मंत्र में आपका स्वागत है।
धन्यवाद।
और सबसे पहले अंग्रेजी में हेडलाइंस के साथ है मेरी सहयोगी गौरा धवन लाल।
Thank you, Vibhuti, and Mr. Badrinath. Welcome to the program. A quick look at the headlines. Sensex falls 434 points to close at 72,623. Nifty drops 142 points to settle at 22,055. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman chairs 28th meeting of Financial Stability and Development Council in New Delhi today. And Brent crude trades at $81.83 per barrel in global crude market.
434 अंकों की गिरावट के साथ सेंसेक्स 72,623 पर बंद, निफ्टी 142 अंक टूटकर 22,055 पर बंद हुआ। केंद्रीय वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण ने आज नई दिल्ली में वित्तीय स्थिरता और विकास परिषद की 28वीं बैठक की अध्यक्षता की और अंतर्दिवसीय कारोबार में ब्रेंट कच्चे तेल की कीमत $81.83 प्रति बैरल पर थी। और सबसे पहले शेयर बाजार का हाल जानते हैं। वैश्विक शेयर बाजारों से मिले जुले संकेतों के बीच प्रमुख घरेलू सूचकांक आज 0.5% से अधिक लुढ़क गए। बीएसई सेंसेक्स 434 अंक या 0.59% टूटकर 72,623 पर बंद हुआ। निफ्टी 142 अंक या 0.64% फिसलकर 22,050 पर बंद हुआ। बीएसई के व्यापक बाजार में मिड कैप इंडेक्स 1.27% गिरकर, जबकि स्मॉल कैप इंडेक्स 0.84% गिरकर बंद हुए हैं। और रुपये का हाल जानते हैं। अंतर बैंकिंग विदेशी मुद्रा बाजार में आज डॉलर के मुकाबले रुपये की कीमत $82.97 रही। 6 अन्य प्रमुख मुद्राओं की तुलना में डॉलर की मजबूती मापने वाला डॉलर सूचकांक 104.10 पर कारोबार कर रहा था।
Key domestic indices slid more than 0.5% today amid mixed cues from global share markets. The BSE Sensex lost 434 points or 0.59% to close at 72,623. The NSE Nifty slipped 142 points or 0.64% to settle at 22,050. In the broader market at the BSE, the mid-cap index fell 1.27%, while the small-cap index lost 0.84%. In the Sensex index, which is a pack of 30 companies, shares of 10 companies appreciated, while those of 20 companies declined. Tata Steel gained 1.99%, SBI rose 1.51%, and JSW Steel added 0.95%. On the other hand, NTPC dropped 2.76%, Power Grid declined 2.71%, and Wipro lost 2%. In sectoral indices at the BSE, all sectors witnessed losses except realty sector, which gained 1.99%. Utilities declined 2.1% and oil and gas lost 1.78%. Power slipped 1.66% and energy fell 1.59%. The overall market breadth was negative as shares of 1,467 companies advanced, while those of 2,374 companies declined. A total of 101 companies remained unchanged. So, wanting to understand from you, in sectoral indices, all sectors witnessed losses except realty sector. So, what do you think is the reason why this sector has held steady today?
Okay. First thing is that the decline in the days, indices was due to 2-3 factors. One is the profit booking that has been happening by especially the foreign institutional investors, and to an extent that has been compensated by the investments made by the domestic institutional investors. Second is in the run-up to the elections, which will be in sometime in May, and your notification is expected in less than a month. My guess is the stock market will continue to be in little bit of a choppy waters, where things would go up and down. But my guess at this point of time is there's no point for worry as of the investors are concerned. Many of them do profit booking and that kind of stuff. So this seems to be more or less the trend as of now.
Right. So when you spoke earlier of profit booking by FIIs and you said it was still held up by domestic investors, you mean if our domestic investor base had not been so strong, the fall would have been more?
Domestic investors may be seeing a upswing,
right,
even if they have to hold on to some stocks. At select counters, there's likely that the stock market, the profit booking would have been made by the DIs as well. The churn in portfolio is what I'm meaning
right,
when I say that they are trying to put in some money.
Right. So when you say choppy waters and and you are saying that nothing to worry, so what advice would you give, retail investors? Because there's small amounts of money, people really get very worried, when there's a fall, and then really celebrate when there's a rise. What would you advise them?
See, two things come to my mind. One is the stock markets are well regulated, number one. Number two, the retail investors have nothing to lose. But at what level you want to book the profit and what kind of time horizon you have for investments are the factors that one has to look into. Second. Third is that Indian market is, stock market especially, is seen as a very rich market with valuations which are very high.
Okay.
And that may be one of the reasons why FIIs seem to be booking profits, and they might like to enter the market when there are, periodic dips.
Okay.
This seems to be the reason. With regards to retail investors, my guess is across the board, if they have already invested funds or if they have put in money or taken exposures, normally retail investors put in not much money, but they would put in. The number of retail investors have increased in a big way over the years, and our market is more broad-based, and the depth is also there, both in the equity markets as well as the debt markets. So my guess is many of them go in for balancing out their funds exposure. Say for example, you have ₹1,00,000. Normally you put some money into the stock market directly, some through mutual funds, some through real estate, some through commodities and things like that. Mostly Indian investors, as I've studied over the years, are conservative investors
Sure.
who do it, and they would not take extra risks to put into their money because many of them it's hard-earned money which goes into savings. This is called financialization of your savings, which normally would only get you because the fixed deposit rates would be much lower. When you link it with the inflation, then you are only the value of money you're holding goes down. So they would want to multiply it. Now, more and more investors are getting into long-term exposures, and my guess is people who are invested already who may want to hold on, perhaps till the elections are over, when the new government is formed sometime in May. My guess is they will continue that.
मेरा सवाल जो है बद्रीनाथ जी वो गौरा जी से मिलता जुलता हुआ है, थोड़ा हिंदी के श्रोता भी ये जान लें। लगातार देखिए 6 दिन तक बाजार ने अच्छा काम किया, लोगों में बड़ी खुशियां थी। अचानक 434 अंक की गिरावट होती है, तो हम इसको समझेंगे, लेकिन अभी एक समय आ गया है ब्रेक का, उसके बाद जल्द वापस लौटते हैं।
सुरक्षित सेवानिवृत्ति के साथ साथ एनपीएस आपको गरिमापूर्ण जीवन जीने में भी मदद करता है। 18 से 70 वर्ष की आयु के बीच का कोई भी भारतीय नागरिक और कॉर्पोरेट कर्मचारी एनपीएस से जुड़ सकता है। किसी भी पीओपी जैसे बैंकों, एनबीएफसी के जरिए या npstrust.org.in के ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म के जरिए आप अपना एनपीएस खाता खोल सकते हैं। सुरक्षित भविष्य के लिए एनपीएस जरूरी है।
श्रोताओं, ब्रेक के बाद आपका स्वागत है। तो बद्रीनाथ जी, वही हम समझना चाह रहे थे, हमारे श्रोता ये जानना चाहेंगे कि ये 6 दिन ठीक रहा, आज अचानक आज गिरावट आ गई, तो ऐसे में जो निवेशक हैं उन्हें क्या सावधानी बरतनी चाहिए, उन्हें क्या सोचना चाहिए, आप क्या देंगे सुझाव?
Two things. On this program, we don't make any individual recommendations on other stock markets as stocks or counters. But broadly, my guess is that this is not जो आप अचानक बोल रहे थे, वो अचानक नहीं है. A cyclical way of stock markets behavior. So when the heating up happens in the stock market, you're bound to come down. So my guess is you need to hold on to where you are right now, and unless you require the resources right now, you don't need to encash your money right away. This is one way of looking at it. Second is that, well, if you think that, okay, I can hold on and I would want to wait for next higher, say 1 more week of highs, so you can do that as well. Second. Third is, in relation to the global markets, as your own bulletin says, we are doing fine. So my guess is that this pattern will continue. It's basically a cyclical curve through which the stock market is going through. And third part is that your interest rates are fine. Your inflation is under control. Your current account deficit is completely under control. Even all these 3-4 macro parameters are fine. Mm-hmm. And your economic fundamentals are strong. There is nothing to worry for either domestic investors or foreign investors. Right. And most of them, either domestic or foreign investors, nobody does a charity.
Right.
Hello, you take whatever your returns will be directly proportional to the risk that you take.
Right.
So there is no, confound band of what do I sell, do I buy, that kind of a thing.
Right.
It's all relative and what you want and the time horizon.
Right. So in effect, don't try and time the market. Markets could be choppy, but don't get restless. That's what you're suggesting. Right.
That's the spirit.
Right. We move on to our next story. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman chaired the 28th meeting of the Financial Stability and Development Council, FSDC, in New Delhi today. Issues related to formulation of strategy for implementing decisions of the FSDC and the union budget announcements were discussed in the meeting. These include prescribing uniform KYC norms, interusability of KYC records across the financial sector, and simplification and digitalization of the KYC process. FSDC emphasized that members need to maintain constant vigilance and continue their proactive efforts towards detecting emerging financial stability risks and taking necessary measures to maintain resilience in the financial sector. The FSDC members also decided to strengthen inter-regulatory coordination to further develop the financial sector so that it continues to provide the requisite financial resources for inclusive economic growth. The FSDC also took note of the activities undertaken by the FSDC subcommittee, chaired by the Governor, Reserve Bank of India, and the action taken by members on the previous decisions of the FSDC. The meeting was also attended by Union Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Bhagwat Kishan Rao Karad, and RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das. Badrinathji, when we look at the FSDC, and we know that we're an expanding market, more and more regulations are coming in to make the market more secure. And we spoke about retail investors, which is actually the primary concern of the government, because they are, I would say, at the bottom of the investing pyramid, you know. So when we look at what the FSDC is saying, resilience in the financial markets, where do you see this meeting going forward in terms of strengthening that?
Okay. The FSDC meeting, I think, if I remember right, was held last about 8-9 months back. Normally it happens in a time frame of 6 months once. It's basically to iron out if there are any overlaps in the regulation part of it.
Okay.
Because you have regulators like Reserve Bank of India, you have Pension Fund Development Authority of PFRDI and other things. So you have Forward Market Commission and that kind of stuff. So there are different regulators within the stock market, within the market, financial market.
Right.
Including the SEBI, banking, finance and all that. A close coordination between all of them is required to keep the regulations in tandem with the objectives for an orderly development of the financial markets. This is where this FSDC is very significant in the term. And also aligning these activities of the regulators with the government of India's fiscal and monetary policy, money policy or money issues related to is basically a coordination. At one point of time, I recall there should be a super regulator for all the decided to not go for a super regulator, but a closer coordination, because our market is different. Closer coordination, bringing all the markets onto global scale and aligning them with the global way of doing things is something which was attempted. More than the regulation part, one issue perhaps was discussed was know your customer kind of norms. See, when you go to the bank as a retail, person, the banker says that, okay, you have to every 3 months or 2 months, you have to validate your KYC and all that. But if you have multiple accounts, you have to do it multiple times. Say, for example, you have an investment account, you have a savings account, you have a forex account, you have a commodities account, you have a debt account. So everywhere you have to do your KYC on a regular basis. Now, how can we streamline the KYC norms is something. So, for example, if you are dealing with more banks, every bank will say that, sir, you do the KYC norms and update it. So across the platforms, can we have a standard KYC kind of a situation?
Like a centralized.
Centralized, where the centralized database will pick up your KYC.
Okay.
You just do it at one place and the rest will follow.
Okay.
So that is something which perhaps is being looked at.
Right.
एशिया और यूरोप के बाजार का हाल जानते हैं। एशियाई शेयर सूचकांक आज मिले जुले स्तर पर बंद हुए। हांगकांग का हैंगसेंग 1.55% और चीन का शंघाई कंपोजिट सूचकांक 0.96% बढ़ा। वहीं सिंगापुर का स्ट्रेट्स टाइम्स 0.84%, दक्षिण कोरिया का कोस्पी 0.17% और जापान का निक्केई 0.27% फिसल गया। दिन के कारोबार में अंतिम समाचार मिलने तक लंदन के फुटसी में 0.84% की गिरावट को छोड़कर यूरोपीय बाजार बढ़त के साथ कारोबार कर रहे थे, जबकि जर्मनी का डैक्स 0.37% और फ्रांस का कैक 0.28% के ऊपर कारोबार कर रहे थे।
A quick look at the US market. All three major US indices ended lower yesterday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average declined 0.17%, the S&P 500 fell 0.6%, and the Nasdaq Composite Index fell 0.92%. Batinaji, looking at the US market, recently, and we had read reports that the Fed Bank is now saying that no, we want to bring inflation lower, more under control. And of course, it would have, whenever they take that decision, finally, it'll translate. I think that expectation that these rates will hold is not there anymore. So how is the US market going to respond? And I think this fall that is happening, do you see it as a continuum, or is this also a normal correction? But before we take your answer, I think it's important to keep our listeners with us. Listeners, a short break.
अच्छे रिटर्न के साथ साथ एनपीएस आपका आत्मसम्मान भी सुनिश्चित करता है। 18 से 70 वर्ष की आयु के बीच का कोई भी भारतीय नागरिक और कॉर्पोरेट कर्मचारी एनपीएस से जुड़ सकता है। किसी भी पीओपी जैसे बैंकों, एनबीएफसी के जरिए या npstrust.org.in के ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म के जरिए आप अपना एनपीएस खाता खोल सकते हैं। सुरक्षित भविष्य के लिए एनपीएस जरूरी है।
Welcome back, listeners. This is Market Mantra, and you are tuned into the program. Our guest today is senior journalist K.A. Badrinath. So we were talking about the US market.
Okay. US market, like many of our Asian markets, including UK as well as India, the US market is very well regulated, and it operates in sync with the US Federal Reserve decision on interest rates and that kind of stuff, like it happens in Bharat, where it is the Reserve Bank of India which takes a call on the interest rates. Now, the issue here is the inflation in India is within the the band that Reserve Bank of India has expected it to be, between about 4.25 to 4.5%. But whereas in the case of US, my guess and my whatever little I have known about US markets is that they expect the inflation to come down further. And henceforth, whatever you're looking at is that, let's wait, come on, let the markets cool further. And then after that only let's take a call.
Right.
And in this context, I may like to point out that what the Federal Reserve does, many of the other European central banks do as well.
Okay.
One big issue that has happened in case of India is that we have decoupled ourselves on the financial markets, decisions in the last few months, and Reserve Bank of India has done a fantastic job of holding on to its own wisdom of how to regulate or how to do the monetary policy committee deciding on the interest rates and that kind of stuff. So what happens in US and Europe may not be that we would just follow that kind of stuff. And this possibility is that we would see interest rates, going down maybe in the second half of 24. So this is 25. So, so the point I'm trying to say is there might be interest rate cuts there. Earlier, perhaps, they may attempt, like the Federal Reserve thinks that, high inflation, high interest rates may be impacting the investors' returns.
Right. We move on to our next story. Union Minister for Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal, today, and sustainable partnership. The minister said, because circumstances are changing, demographics across the world are changing, even Europe is changing. I think industry expectations are changing. How do you see India and Europe now relating a little differently from earlier?
Two things. Free trade agreements are being negotiated by Bharat with several other countries, and this is a fact. As we talk right now, the Commerce Secretary, Indian Commerce Secretary, is in London trying to ink a free trade agreement with UK right now. And also, the European Union Free Trade Agreement is a project that India has been looking at very carefully.
Okay.
Because both UK as well as Europe, they think that there is a big market here for goods, services, trained human resource, as well as an opportunity and low cost or cost effective opportunity that is available in India. So this is the basic funda on which these two, both UK as well as Europe, seem to be looking at India. Okay. My guess is Mr. Piyush Goyal's statement is only trying to remind them that, look, there is a big opportunity here. Yeah. And it's an open, flexible market. Our experience with free trade agreements has been mixed.
Yeah.
With some it has been good, some it has been not very good, some it has been negative. That kind of a cycle is over. Right. And now when we enter the phase 2 of the free trade agreements, here we are open.
Open, flexible and stable. With depth also.
Stable in terms of two ways. One is the political stability that we are looking at. Second is the policy continuity that we are looking at. Third, the well-regulated markets that provide an opportunity along with a brimming workforce, which is very trained and well-educated and English trained.
Right. Look at the oil prices. Oil prices extended losses from the previous session today. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at 0.62% lower at $81.83 per barrel, while US West Texas Intermediate crude was also trading down 0.65% at $76.54 per barrel when reports last came in.
सोना चांदी का हाल जानते हैं। मल्टी कमोडिटी एक्सचेंज में आज अप्रैल अनुबंध के लिए सोना तेजी के साथ कारोबार कर रहा था। अंतिम समाचार मिलने तक सोना 43 रुपये की तेजी के साथ 62,210 रुपये प्रति 10 ग्राम पर कारोबार कर रहा था। मार्च अनुबंध के लिए चांदी 35 रुपये की गिरावट के साथ 71,220 रुपये प्रति किलोग्राम पर कारोबार कर रही थी। वैश्विक बाजारों में दिन के कारोबार में अंतिम समाचार मिलने तक सोना कॉमेक्स पर $2,039 और 30 सेंट प्रति ऑन्स की गिरावट के साथ कारोबार कर रहा था, जबकि चांदी बढ़त के साथ $23 और 15 सेंट प्रति ऑन्स पर कारोबार कर रही थी।
So 15 seconds on prospects for gold in the market. Just 15 seconds.
Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, the price of gold and how are we seeing gold go?
Okay.
Just 10 seconds. Please.
Okay. See, when you have a very brimming and bright, very, transparent market already, normally the equity markets and the bullion markets go in tandem.
So
my guess is there shouldn't be an issue with the...
Right, great. Right, and thank you so much, Badrinath Ji, for coming onto our program. A quick look, listeners, at the headlines. Sensex falls 434 points to close at 72,623. Nifty drops 142 points to settle at 22,055. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman chairs 28th meeting of Financial Stability and Development Council in New Delhi today, and Brent crude trades at $81.83 per barrel in global crude market. And that's all in this program. Namaskar.
नमस्कार।
एक आकर्षक निवेश के साथ साथ एनपीएस समानता का भी साधन है। 18 से 70 वर्ष की आयु के बीच का कोई भी भारतीय नागरिक और कॉर्पोरेट कर्मचारी एनपीएस से जुड़ सकता है। किसी भी पीओपी जैसे बैंकों, एनबीएफसी के जरिए या npstrust.org.in के ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म के जरिए आप अपना एनपीएस खाता खोल सकते हैं। सुरक्षित भविष्य के लिए एनपीएस जरूरी है। इस कार्यक्रम के प्रायोजक नेशनल पेंशन सिस्टम एनपीएस। अपना बेहतर कल सुनिश्चित करने के लिए एनपीएस जरूरी है।